Coastal Wetland Restoration by Kendra and Ellis.
What is wetland restoration? Restoration of coastal wetlands strives to restore the environmental aspects of degraded wetlands to their original state.
Here are some solutions. By adding sediment to raise the ground above the water, it encourages the growth of wetland plants and can reduce the erosion that is destroying wetland habitats. By limiting saltwater intrusion, coastal wetlands restoration and maintenance also lowers eutrophication and maintains freshwater quality. Another strategy for restoring coastal wetlands is to re-wet the dried out areas to prevent drainage and minimize groundwater extraction. The transplantation of plants from healthy wetlands or specialized nurseries would be a more resource-intensive procedure. In order to reestablish intertidal ecosystems between the old and new defense, the line of hard floor defenses will be moved back to new line that is farther inland and on raised terrain.
Some benefits of restoring coastal wetlands is protection from erosion and storm surges, improvements in water quality, and an increase in ecosystems and biodiversity.
How can this restore balance to the carbon cycle? Coastal wetlands have a much higher capacity to store carbon than they do to naturally release it. According to research, these wetlands hold about half of the carbon buried in the ocean sediments, despite making up less than 2% of the ocean and less than 5% of the world's land surface. In the process of photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide from the air and water to use it to fuel their development. Healthy coastal wetlands often use a natural means to stop carbon from being released into the atmosphere and causing climate change to keep that carbon secured for millennia.
How can this benefit biodiversity? Coastal wetlands are home to a variety of species such as plants, birds, fish, and invertebrates. Wetlands have been dubbed the biological supersystems because of the enormous amounts of food they produce and the astounding level of biodiversity they maintain. These species depend on the health of the wetland, as the nutrients and plants found there are their main sources of food. Helping to restore these wetlands would help boost the amount of food available to these species, thus allowing for greater biodiversity.
Human activity affects coastal wetlands in many ways. Coastal wetlands are very fragile ecosystems, so it is very easy for human activity to disturb the balance. Pollution, runoff, disordered urbanization, fishing, and more are all threats to these wetlands that are caused by humans. Due to these activities, there have been immense wetlands loss over the last decade. However, restoring coastal wetlands would have many benefits for humans, such as flood protection, clean drinking water, and more. Hopefully, if people see the benefit in restoring these wetlands, they will try to fix this issue.
Wetlands and climate change. By absorbing significant amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it for a long time, healthy coastal wetlands can help fight climate change. Wetlands are nature's own answer to climate change since they absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. Wetlands prevent soil erosion, protect against extreme weather, and maintain coasts.
How wetland restoration can improve ecosystem resilience and resistance. Wetland restoration can lessen the severity caused by erosion and flooding, thus making the ecosystem more likely to make a full recovery after the damage is done. Restoring wetlands is crucial to helping these ecosystems to withstand nature's challenges by buffering against storms and stabilizing shorelines. Some wetland benefits to residents are maintaining critical wildlife habitats, providing clean drinking water, flood protection, recreational opportunities, and more economic well-being.
Here is a real-life example of wetland restoration. Thousands of cubic yards of gravel were taken out of the Snake River floodplain in Colorado between the 1950s and the early 1990s, mostly for road developments on federal property. This left the landscape barren, with little to no wildlife able to withstand the damaged terrain. However, this area underwent a huge project to restore the wetland to what it once was, constructing ponds, meadows, and marshes. In turn, this led to grizzly bears, bison, and many more species returning to inhabit the restored wetland. As helpful as this project is, sadly, the cost of restoring coastal wetlands is not cheap, with prices ranging from the high millions to even billions of dollars. In most cases, these types of projects are paid for by state funding programs. Though there has not yet been an attempt at expanding wetland restoration projects globally, I think that global funding could be beneficial for countries that would not be able to afford this restoration on their own. Typically, it would take 3 to 4 years to restore a wetland to what it once was, and a while longer for species to return and biodiversity to flourish.
Though it is hard to imagine that there would be people that do not support the restoration of coastal wetlands, they do exist. The main opposers might be fishing companies, farmers, and other big businesses that profit economically off of the toxic system as it is. To combat this, they can be taught the benefits to restoration and introduced to cleaner and more efficient production methods. I said that so.
Thank you for watching our presentation.